Good evening, good evening. This is the 9th of January 2025. Basically, I've just finished doing a 7-day fast, and I've not fasted for a very long time, and I've not actually done any fasting according to the Bible. Like, you got the Daniel fast, and you got the 40-day fast, you got the abstaining of certain foods. So I actually learned a lot of lessons from fasting, and I'll be incorporating it in most of the days that I begin to live from now on, just like how I incorporate prayer. But I had a dream. In fact, I had three vivid dreams during the fasting, and I'll make the other two videos about other dreams later on. But the Lord actually told me that I had to make this video today very quickly because prophecy has an expiry date, and there is actually a time for prophecy to be able to be acted on before the time window for it expires. I've not done enough research on the dream, but I believe that we're in the month of Tevet, I think, and there is some significance to this month as well. So I've not checked the times regarding when I had this dream. I'll probably do that in the cut-off section after this video. But this was a dream that I had in my childhood home in Nigeria. There was a call to repentance for T.G. Jakes and ex-President Barack Obama. Now, you may actually know that these guys are people who actually promote the homosexual agenda in the world, and actually is trying to come after church people. So they're actually wolf in sheep clothing, and they don't uphold the standard of God in the church, whereby we're supposed to abstain from all kinds of sexual immorality and greed and idolatry. So they actually permit these things to be practiced by God's people, and God is actually coming down in a way whereby He wants to settle accounts with these people. Basically, God was actually calling them to repent, because He was actually taking them out of a certain dimension in the world, and they were beginning to die off in the dream. They were going to die in the dream, like not necessarily die naturally, but they were going to lose their power over the people that they controlled in the church or in the world, because the people in the church began to start dealing with the traumas that they were going through in their childhood. They're beginning to start redeeming the time, dealing with what has happened in the past, so that they can move forward in their race with Jesus Christ. So God is coming with judgment for His people today. God is coming to be able to answer the prayers of many, many people. And in my own stead, I was actually in my childhood home. I went through a lot of traumas when I was actually growing up. And I believe that Barack Obama and T.G. Jakes, with their allowance of these things in the world and in the church, these things have actually permeated into all kinds of societies, like the yeast that has actually spread all over the lump. So people actually honor T.G. Jakes a lot, like they call him a man of God and everything. So I think some things are going to get exposed, and people will really, really know who these people are behind the scenes. Because the Bible actually says that there's nothing that is held secret that will not be disclosed. And also the Bible actually says that temptations and offenses may come, but woe to those people who will come from that. If you tempt any of my children, it'd be better that you're tied onto a boulder and actually cast into the sea to tempt these little ones of my children. That's what Jesus actually said. So these guys Well, I was actually taking in this dream. I was actually taking President Obama down the stairs, and it was slowly dying when I was taking him down the stairs out of the house. And I realized that we were going to pray for him so that he can receive salvation before he dies out from his power over the church, his stronghold over the church. In those times when he was actually in government, he was actually there to silence the church against them preaching out against homosexuality. And I think that right now that President Trump is now president, there's going to be a lot of changes that's going to happen in the world regarding people's perspective of same-sex relationships. So President Obama's power and grip is actually coming to an end. One significant part of what I actually saw in the dream was that his wife was there, and his wife is actually his mentor. She's been his mentor before, and right now she was actually mentoring the children in this vision, and she saw her husband dying out and actually walking out of people's homes, which actually represents their fortitude or their strength or their willpower, the houses or their temple. And she saw her husband dying out of these temples, and she had no concern for her husband because she was very bitter that her husband did not allow her to run for the last two terms of presidency in the United States. So she had no remorse for her husband. And I saw that people outside of the house, when I took him out to the back, they were fighting against one another because what was actually causing the divisions in the church was basically people's perspective of who President Obama is, or people's perspective of what the Republican Party actually stands for versus what the Labour Party actually stands for. So the church was actually in a fight. So I actually came out to the people in the church and told them they should stop fighting. President Obama is about to die out of the church. His influence is about to come to an end. Come and help him so that he can receive salvation before he dies. That's T.D. Jakes and President Obama. I think in this dream, T.D. Jakes actually shifted over to President Obama. So there's the two people who will be promoting this homosexual agenda, all these kind of things. So I'll be back for a minute to just reveal to you what times we're in right now. I'll be right back.
A question coming in from Black 185 in our digital community said, do you think, I'm assuming, LGBT community and the Black church can coexist?
Absolutely.
Let me push that question, because that's sort of an obvious yes. Church ain't turning nobody away. How should the Black church and LGBT community exist?
I think it's going to be diverse from church to church. Every church has a different opinion on the issue, and every gay person is different. And I think that to speak the church, the Black church or white church or any kind of church you want to call it, are all the same is totally not true. And all gay people are not the same. The types of relationships that are afforded are based on the types of people in each individual case. Yeah. And LGBTs of types and sorts have to find a household of worship that reflects what your views are and what you believe, like anybody else. And the church should have the right to have its own convictions and values. If you don't like those convictions and values, you totally disagree with it, don't try to change my house, move into your own and establish that sort of thing and find somebody who gets what you get about faith. And trust me, I've talked to enough LGBT, they are not all the same.
Oh, for sure. Any more than all Christians.
No.
But how do we, first of all, has your thinking evolved on this?
Evolved and evolving.
Where were you and where are you?
I think that where I am is to better understand, the church bought into the myth that this was a Christian nation. And once you get past that, which a lot of people are going to criticize me because they're still going to think it's a Christian nation, which is a whole different show. Mm-hmm. But once you begin to understand that democracy and that a republic actually is designed to be an overarching system to protect our unique nuances, then we no longer look for public policy to reflect biblical ethics. If we can divide, or what you would call separation of church and state, then we can dwell together more effectively. because atheists, agnostics, Jews, all types of people, Muslims pay into the government then cannot reflect one particular view over another just because we are the dominant group of religious people in the country, because those numbers are changing every day. We need a neutralized government that protects our right to disagree with one another and agree with one another.
So that covers what happens outside the church.
Right.
Inside the church, has your thinking biblically, scripturally, hermeneutically shifted at all? And the reason I ask that is because I talk to a lot of ministers now, and there was that big conference in South Africa in the last couple of weeks where people from all over the world were there, and this was one of the issues that came up along with race and other things. And one of the questions was, is there a way to approach Christian tradition, Christian scripture, in light of a new understanding of LGBT? For example, 18th century, there might have been a particular understanding of what slavery meant in relation to Paul, in relation to the New Testament, et cetera. That has shifted to the point that it is socially accepted that irrespective of what text says literally, we don't support slavery as a body, right? And even though it varies most churches don't support slavery.
Right.
Might be a few out there that do. We don't get invited to those. Yeah. But similarly, there's room for that same kind of shift.
I think that shift has to go on behind the closed doors of the church, because I think in the mainstream America, anybody who doesn't agree with you, we have a derogatory name to call you. And I think it oversimplifies the complexity of text. The fact that you have fidelity to the scriptures as you have been taught does not mean that you're necessarily homophobic or any other kind of phobia, but yet in mainstream America, anybody who doesn't line up with a particular worldview, we give them a name to ostracize them, much like we were given names to ostracize us. This name calling does not depict the struggle that many people have theologically. I think the argument has to be theological and not sociological. The fact that the world has turned that way doesn't mean that the word has changed that way. The argument for clergy, fundamental clergy, has to be a theological argument. It cannot be a sociological one.
If I wasn't out of time, I would push you on this. And one day I'm gonna bring you back just to talk about this, because I'm fascinated by your take on it. And I want to not just challenge you on it, I want to understand your thinking on this, because the thing I appreciate about you most is that you operate in good faith. You're honest, you're transparent, and about your struggle with these things, and about your convictions about
Well,
these
it's
things.
a complex issue. It's a real complex issue, and it was in the Bible days. Sexuality versus spirituality. Paul spends a lot of time wrestling back and forth, trying to understand, should a woman wear her head covered? Should you cut your hair? I mean, they grappled back then, and we're grappling now, because we are humans, and we are flawed, and we're not God. Yeah. Once you understand you're not God, you leave yourself an out clause to grow.
I know that's right.
Yeah, to grow.
Most of these heroes didn't set out to make history, but that's exactly what they did. Bit by bit, step by step, they bent the arc of the moral universe towards justice. Now it's our turn. So this June, let's take some time to celebrate teachers and students who take a stand against bullying, openly gay and lesbian service members who defend our country with honor and integrity, families and friends who have seen their own attitudes evolve. Perfecting our union isn't something we can do in just 1 month, but we can remember those who came before us. We can summon the courage to build on their legacy, and we can renew our commitment day in and day out to be the kind of people who make change happen.
Okay, welcome back. So, I had this dream on the 8th of January, according to Hebraic calendar. It was on the 8th of Tevet, and Tevet is the 10th month of the year of the Hebrew calendar. It signifies godly authority. So that's actually just interpreting it that in a broader sense, is that God is taking his authority back over the church and is kicking out all those agents of the enemy that's in the church that are causing his people to fall and to stumble in temptation to sin. So we've actually realized that there is power in fasting fasting actually subdues the flesh. So it helps us to be able to master the flesh and allows the Spirit of God to take preeminence in our lives. So that's the reason why it's actually good for you to fast, so that you can be able to overcome some sins. If you're involved in any homosexual activity or any sexual immorality, you should fast, because fasting is actually potent enough to put your flesh to death. That's why you kill your flesh. You kill your flesh so that you can be able to master your flesh, so that your flesh does not actually control you and then betray you. So the 8th of Tevet, according to Daniel's prophecy, Daniel 11, about the 4 ruling Greek kings in the world. There was a Greek king called Ptolemy, who was a Greek Egyptian king that ruled over the region of Egypt. And there was also the king of the north. I forgot his name, but there was a king of the west. So the Egyptian king, Ptolemy, he actually asked the Jews at that time to translate the Torah over to Greek language. And then the rabbis at that time, they saw it was actually translated, but they saw it as a disaster that it wasn't translated as properly as it should be translated. So it was actually a bad day for them. So that's what actually happened on the 8th of Tevet. I don't know what the significance of that is, but if I was to go back and read Daniel chapter 11, I'll actually also know that these kings were also at war with one another. I don't know why they were at war with one another. I think one of them wanted to take over the world, wanted to have world dominance and everything. So also as well, what also happened was that the 8th of Tevet, the 8th of Tevet, the 9th of Tevet, and the 10th of Tevet were days where people used to fast in the Bible. Now, I do not know broadly what that actually means. I only know broadly what the month of Tevet actually means. It just means that godly authority has been established. So, what we're seeing right now in this dream, as the significance of this day, is that God is taking his authority back. And God is actually honoring the fasting that people have been doing this time, the cleansing of their temple, because that's what fasting actually does. And basically, we're cleansing out all those liberal beliefs, all those sexual immorality tendencies. When you look at porn this time around, it doesn't have any effect on you. It doesn't. Your flesh is not being sprung back to life because of what you can see with your eyes. So your eyes are being cleansed, and your heart is being cleansed, and light is shining upon you in this time. So thank you very much for watching my video today. God bless you today, and I'll be on the lookout for the other dreams as well I've had. I'll actually interpret them for you, see if it resonates with you as well. God bless you today. Bye-bye.